October 27, 1962. The Cold War raged. The world was gripped by fear and uncertainty, as two superpowers stood on the brink of mutual destruction. The air was thick with tension and the stakes had never been higher. Nuclear shadows stretched across the globe. The threat of annihilation loomed large, casting a dark pall over everyday life. People everywhere held their breath, wondering if each day might be their last. The Cuban Missile Crisis, a tense standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union, had brought the world to the precipice of nuclear war. Leaders on both sides grappled with the weight of their decisions, knowing that a single misstep could trigger a catastrophic chain of events. Unbeknownst to many, the fate of humanity rested not in the hands of presidents or generals, but in the heart of a Soviet submarine. Deep beneath the ocean's surface, far from the eyes of the world, a drama was unfolding that would determine the course of history. Deep beneath the ocean's surface, the Soviet submarine B-59, armed with a nuclear torpedo, received an order. The crew, isolated and under immense pressure, faced a dire situation. Communication with Moscow had been lost, and the submarine's captain believed that war had already begun. Surface, and prepare to fire. The Americans were attacking, the order was clear, and the crew braced themselves for what seemed like an inevitable confrontation. The tension inside the submarine was palpable, as each crew member understood the gravity of their actions. War, it seemed, was inevitable. The world teetered on the edge of destruction, with the fate of millions hanging in the balance. Yet, in this moment of extreme peril, a single act of courage and reason would change the course of history. The decision made in the depths of the ocean would echo through time, a testament to the power of human resolve in the face of annihilation. Inside the sweltering, cramped submarine, Vasili Arkhipov, a seasoned Soviet naval officer, maintained his composure. As deputy commander of the submarine flotilla, Arkhipov's opinion carried weight. But this was no ordinary decision. This was a choice between annihilation and an uneasy peace. The submarine had been bombarded with depth charges, forcing it to surface. Communication with Moscow was impossible. The decision to fire the nuclear torpedo rested solely with the submarine's captain and officers. Tension crackled in the air, sweat dripped from brows. The confined space of the submarine felt even smaller as the pressure mounted. Every creak of the metal hull, every beep of the instruments, seemed amplified in the silence. The crew members exchanged nervous glances, each one aware of the gravity of their situation. They were deep beneath the ocean's surface, isolated from the world above, yet holding its fate in their hands. The captain, convinced that war had broken out, was ready to launch the nuclear torpedo. His hand hovered over the button, a symbol of ultimate destruction. He believed that their country was under attack, and that their only option was to retaliate with equal force. The weight of his decision was immense, but he felt it was his duty to protect his homeland, even if it meant unleashing unimaginable devastation. But Arkhipov remained unconvinced. He argued passionately against it. His voice, though calm, carried a sense of urgency. He knew that once the button was pressed, there would be no turning back. He questioned the intelligence reports, the lack of direct communication with their superiors, and the very logic of engaging in a nuclear war. His arguments were not just about following orders, but about the moral implications of their actions. He questioned the orders, the lack of communication, the very logic of nuclear war. Arkhipov's mind raced through the possible scenarios. What if the reports were wrong? What if this was a misunderstanding? The consequences of a mistake were too dire to ignore. He voiced his concerns, hoping to reach the rational part of his comrades' minds. The tension in the room was palpable, but his words began to plant seeds of doubt. His words, firm yet measured, echoed through the submarine. The crew listened intently, weighing his arguments against their fears. Arkhipov spoke of the millions of innocent lives that would be lost, the irreversible damage to the planet, and the moral responsibility they held. His voice carried the weight of reason and compassion, cutting through the fog of fear and uncertainty that clouded their judgment. He reminded his comrades of the devastating consequences of nuclear war, the millions of lives at stake. He painted a vivid picture of the aftermath, cities reduced to rubble, countless lives extinguished in an instant, and the long-term effects of radiation. The images of past nuclear disasters flashed through their minds, reinforcing the horror of what they were contemplating. Arkhipov's words were a stark reminder of the human cost of their actions. His calm demeanor amidst the chaos, his unwavering belief in humanity's survival, began to sway the tide. As the crew looked at Arkhipov, they saw a leader who was not driven by fear, but by a deep sense of responsibility and hope. His composure gave them the strength to reconsider their actions. Slowly, the atmosphere in the submarine shifted from one of impending doom to one of cautious optimism. Arkhipov's steadfastness in the face of overwhelming pressure became a beacon of hope, guiding them away from the brink of disaster. The captain, torn between orders and doubt, looked to Arkhipov. In that pressure cooker moment, Arkipov's calm logic pierced through the fog of war. He argued that a single nuclear strike would trigger a global apocalypse, a chain reaction that would leave no victors. His words resonated with the captain. They were not warmongers, not bloodthirsty aggressors. They were sailors, husbands, fathers. They yearned for the warmth of the sun on their skin, the laughter of children, the embrace of loved ones. They chose life. Section 5. Silence, then relief. The order to arm the nuclear torpedo was rescinded. In the dimly lit control room of the submarine, tension hung thick in the air. The crew, who had been on edge, now began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The commander, with a stern yet relieved expression, rescinded the order that could have led to unimaginable destruction. The weight of the decision was palpable, and the silence that followed was deafening. It was a moment that would remain etched in the memories of those present, a moment where the fate of the world hung by a thread. The submarine slowly descended back into the depths, carrying with it the hopes of a world on the brink. As it moved deeper into the ocean, the crew reflected on the gravity of what had just transpired. Each member of the crew knew that they had narrowly avoided a catastrophe that could have altered the course of history. The ocean's vast expanse seemed to swallow the tension, offering a cold, dark solace. The submarine, a silent guardian, continued its journey, a vessel of both potential destruction and salvation. Back in Washington and Moscow, unaware of how close they had come to annihilation, diplomats worked feverishly to avert disaster. The halls of power buzzed with urgent discussions and frantic negotiations. Leaders on both sides grappled with the weight of their decisions, each move a delicate balance between war and peace. The Cuban Missile Crisis had brought the world to the edge, and the stakes had never been higher. Yet amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of hope, a chance for a peaceful resolution. The Cuban Missile Crisis was eventually resolved peacefully, but the world remained oblivious to the silent hero who had averted catastrophe. The images of relieved crowds and the handshake between JFK and Khrushchev became symbols of a world stepping back from the brink. However, the true story of the near catastrophe remained hidden, known only to a few. The resolution was celebrated, but the silent heroism of those who had prevented disaster went unrecognized. The world moved on, blissfully unaware of how close it had come to the edge. Vasili Arkhipov, the man who had stared into the abyss and chosen peace, returned home, his act of courage unknown and uncelebrated. As he stepped off the submarine, there were no parades, no medals, no recognition. His fellow crew members knew the truth, but the world did not. Arkhipov's decision had saved countless lives, yet he remained a quiet figure in history. His bravery was a testament to the power of individual choice in the face of overwhelming pressure. The silent hero returned to his life, carrying with him the weight of the world he had helped save. Today, in a world grappling with new tensions, Arkhipov's story serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. The threat of nuclear war, though seemingly distant, still looms large. The doomsday clock, a symbolic timepiece that measures humanity's proximity to global catastrophe, remains precariously close to midnight. Climate change, political instability, and the rise of nationalism all contribute to a volatile global landscape. The lessons learned from the Cuban Missile Crisis and from Arkhipov's courageous act are more relevant than ever. History is replete with such stories of ordinary individuals who, through their courage and conviction, have shaped the course of human events. They may not have commanded armies or led nations, but their actions, often taken in the face of unimaginable pressure, have left an indelible mark on our world. These unsung heroes remind us that we all have a role to play in shaping a better future. It is in our collective choices, our unwavering commitment to peace, that we honor their legacy. Vasili Arkhipov's story is a testament to the power of one person to make a difference. It is a story that needs to be told and retold, for it carries within it a timeless message of hope, courage, and the enduring human spirit. By sharing his story, by remembering his sacrifice, we keep alive the flame of peace and inspire future generations to choose dialogue over destruction, empathy over enmity. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, facing challenges that seem insurmountable, let us remember the courage of Vasili Arkhipov. Let his story serve as a beacon, guiding us towards a future where peace, not annihilation, is the prevailing narrative. What other unsung heroes of history inspire you? Share their stories, amplify their voices, and let us learn from the past to create a more peaceful future. Remember, the power to choose lies within each and every one of us.